Now, I want you to notice all through there. Well, I'm jumping ahead of myself. First of all, what was it made of? It was made of dead, burnt clay. Remember, the ark was made out of living trees. And we have this tower that they're building. And remember now, they were building this tower because they didn't believe the promise of God. God said, I'll never flood the earth again. But they didn't believe that. And some didn't even believe that there was a God. They had shunned that from their memory. They had kicked it out. So here they were building a tower. So just in case nature or the gods or whatever they believed in, just in case they sent another flood or another flood happened, we could be on this tower. And so what did they build it out of? They built it out of burnt, dead clay. The second thing they used was for the mortar was slime. Now, this is actually a different word from the one that we talked about that was pitch. These are two different words. Okay? The Hebrew word here is, and I can't really pronounce this, but it's bitumen, I think. Bitumen. And it means it's rising up. In other words, it's kind of rising to the surface. And then in the Strong's, it goes on to say, like a slime-pit. Of course, what did I think of? A tar pit. Okay? Do you know what is often found in tar pits?
Bones.
Bones, dead animals. They either got stuck in there or they're what the tar's made out of. It's a little bit of both. Most of your tar came from after the flood. The dead animals and dead people and all that, and vegetation all collected up in little groups. And as the water subsided, it was left and buried and became what you find. There's one in California that's pretty famous. I don't remember the name of it. What? Maybe that's it. I don't remember. So, what do we have? They're making their mortar out of filth, right? So far we got dead clay bricks, and we have filthy tar pits. Does this sound good? I'm sure that whenever they made their tower, that they covered it with whitewash and made it pretty. And that reminds me of what Jesus said, to the Pharisees. Oh, you're whitewashed sepulchres full of dead men's bones. It's the same thing, isn't it? That's what they're building. This is probably a depiction of it. And I want you to notice, well, actually, this is a ziggurat. I can't ever say that right. Ziggurat? Is that right? But anyway, this one's in Ur. It's like a kind of a picture that somebody painted of one, and it's very similar to the one in Ur of Chaldees. Who lived in Ur of Chaldees? Abraham did, yeah. But anyway, if you'll notice, it has like a garden as the steps go up, there's gardens. Well, think about it. If you're worried about a flood coming, you want plants and gardens and places to keep animals, right? It's like a backwards, upside down, confused Noah's Ark, right? They're doing the same thing. They're just doing it their way. But the worst thing about the Tower of Babel was that it was never ordained by God. God didn't say, go build a tower. If you noticed, and I was going to say it before, but I got ahead of myself. If you noticed in the passage I read, it said, hey, let's go. We do it. It was man's invention. Man came up with it. The builders of Babel made their own plans, and they did not believe the promise of God. And what was the end of their man-made or man-made schemes? What happened with all their plans? Yeah. Right, it brought confusion. Confusion was the end results of everything that they did. Yes. In fact, Mrs. White, and what I was listening to, Mrs. White said that the top of the tower was actually struck by lightning and knocked off. But anyway, so what does all that have to do with me And you. That's me, by the way. And I want you to know that picture's stretched because I'm not that thick. I'm sure I'm not that thick. Are we building towers or arcs? Are we doing that? Is anybody in here building an ark in their backyard? There is a guy that built an ark on a barge, and it's supposed to be pretty impressive. I think it's life size, to scale, but I'm not sure. Storm cellars, yeah, that's a little different. But do they? I'm here to tell you that we are building either a tower or an ark in our lives. I know I have built a little bit of both, and I'm here to tell you I want to leave off building a tower. The ark, again, was a symbol of God's means of saving us, right? He saved our father of old, Abraham, Noah. I'm getting them all mixed up today. He saved our father and thereby saved us through the ark, right? But the Tower of Babel, it represented man's confused and self-devised way of saving himself. Does this sound familiar? So how can we be sure that we're building an ark and not building a tower? Because if we're building an ark, what are we resting in? Jesus Christ, right? Because we said that the ark represented Jesus. If we're putting everything into Him and letting Him be our salvation, then we won't build a tower, right? Because the tower wasn't Jesus. Didn't look like Jesus at all. We've already seen, like I said, that Jesus was the symbol of the ark was a symbol of Jesus. To be in Christ is to be in the ark, right? Let's look at a passage. Romans 3:24, being justified freely by His grace through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus. So our redemption is in the ark of Christ, if you will. Okay? Now, it is the faith that we build in Christ that saves us. Remember, Noah, what did he do? He built that ark. Right? He built his faith. How do we build faith? How do we do that? Well, how did Noah build his faith? Huh? Noah believed what God said. God said He's going to send a flood, and Noah said, all right. And then God said, I want you to build an ark. And Noah said, okay. I mean, think about it. He could have had all kinds of questions. He could have thought, well, how's an ark going to save me? And, well, surely, what? You're pointing.
The last word in that up there is wrong.
Is it?
No nails in ark.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that already. You might have been asleep.
Sorry.
Anyway. And the point is that he was pounding with a hammer. Okay? Nails, there again. That's up to you. I don't know. Okay. Don't throw me off my subject. You'll get me messed up. The hours, the days, and the years he toiled were not without tribulation. I want to stop here and tell you that I had a terrible week. I was stressing about this, trying to figure out what I was going to talk about. And then, believe it or not, I had two people that I really care about, that I love, tell me that I was inspired by Satan.
Who?
Yeah. And the reason was, no, it wasn't Chris. The reason was over some of our doctrine. And as I was driving home, God comforted me with His Spirit, with His Spirit, but with a verse, and that was, if they say that the master of the house works for Beelzebub or is Beelzebub, how much are they going to say about us, His servants? And so that really